Welcome to Echo Forge, dark fantasy and sci-fi stories from the edges of forgotten worlds. If you enjoy this kind of storytelling, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next vision. Now, let's step through the gate. The gate waits. It fills the far end of the antechamber like a held breath. Stone and metal interlock so tightly there is no door, only a woven wall of purpose. Runes braid through it in layers, dense as chainmail, each line humming with the same low tone that has haunted him since the first chime. In the center is the socket, a circular indentation, a mouth without teeth, a shape he knows without knowing, because his chest knows it, because the shard he forced into his binding throbs against it like a wound recognizing a blade. He steps closer. The rune glow along the walls brightens, as if the dungeon leans forward to watch. He puts his gauntlet to the gate. The weave answers, not with rejection, with hunger. A pressure presses back through his palm and up his arm, into the braided rune lines along his spine, into the hook points in his chest where tethers have always lived. The pull ahead tightens until his plates hum. The pull behind, thin now, distant, tugs once, a weak complaint, then fades like a memory of a leash he once wore without question. The gate does not open. It does not even shift. It simply waits. In the center socket, the rune lines brighten in a pattern that is not language, but is still instruction. Key. He has the broken staff shaft. No, he does not. He does not carry it. He embedded the shard. He made it part of himself. He made it survive by making it not a possession, but a scar. The shard inside his chest answers the socket with a sharp pulse. The gate answers back with a colder one. Not enough. His gauntlet tightens. A thought rises in him like a blade sliding from a sheath. Not enough. He leans in. He presses harder. The runes bite. Pain blooms. Not impact pain. Not tearing pain, but rule pain. The sensation of being told no by something so large it does not bother to speak. The gate does not care that he has suffered. The gate does not care that he has learned. The gate is a mechanism, and mechanisms have requirements. He draws his hand away and stands in the antechamber's bright pulse, listening. Beyond the gate, he can feel it, not in sound, in pressure. A slow, vast rhythm, like the chime, but deeper, like the chime's parent, like the thing the chime obeys. It calls to the hollow space inside him as if that space was carved specifically to hold it. A forge calling for its unfinished blade. A socket calling for its missing tooth. He turns his empty visor slightly and looks back the way he came. The door he passed through is behind him. Open now, because the shard in his chest fooled it into thinking he was a caretaker. The rune glow beyond the door is dimmer. The corridor sloping up toward places he has already bled through. And further back still, a shaft, a drop, a chain sound, a distant crash that was not echoes, but falling. The depth warden fell there. The staff tip broke off inside its mask. The socket is shaped like that missing piece. The dungeon built this gate to open only for its own hand. And he took that hand and broke it. He steps away from the gate. The pull ahead tightens, then strains, like a tether pulling against his decision. The gate does not want him to leave now that he is here. He leaves anyway. Down, not command, direction, choice. The shaft waits too. He stands at its edge and looks down into darkness that is not empty. The air coming up from it is colder than the corridor air. Cleaner, sharper, threaded with oil and metal and something like burnt bone. Chains shift far below. Not the small clink of a single loop moving in a draft. A slow, heavy drag, like enormous links turning in a hidden wheel. The dungeon's throat, its intestine, its machinery. He has crossed bridges where gravity tilted and tried to peel him off stone. He has walked corridors filled with unthreading fog. He has stood among hanging suits of armor that begged without mouths. This is different. This is not a trap meant to kill intruders. This is a passage meant for maintenance. A place where the dungeon's hand falls when it is broken. He steps onto the first ledge below the shaft's lip, gauntlets scraping stone for purchase. His sabatons grind. Sparks spit into the dark. The pull behind him is almost gone now, but the pull ahead remains. A pressure in his chest that points both toward the gate and toward whatever drives the chains below. 2 wants, 1 problem. He descends. The walls of the shaft are carved smoother than any corridor. There are grooves, old grooves, worn by things heavier than him, sliding up and down, not by boots. Maintenance routes. Halfway down, the rune glow fades. Darkness becomes thick enough that even his sense of vibration feels muffled, like metal wrapped in cloth. A chain swings past his visor in the dark. He catches it instinctively. The chain is cold, not stone cold, iron cold, the kind that tastes of old storms. It moves under his grip, not resisting, not fighting, just turning, pulled by some deeper mechanism. He rides it down, boots against stone, dropping faster now, letting the moving link do what gravity would do anyway. Then the shaft changes. A pulse runs through the chain. A rune field flares somewhere below, and the chain jerks sideways as if yanked by an invisible hand. His grip tightens. His shoulders strain. For a moment he is hanging over nothing, swinging. Gravity tilts. Not sideways like before. Down becomes a direction the dungeon chooses. His weight suddenly doubles, as if the air itself presses him toward the abyss. The chain slips through his gauntlet. He clamps harder. The link cuts into metal fingers. He holds for 3 heartbeats he does not have. Then the chain whips again, faster, and the force peels his grip open. He falls. No scream, just the rushing sensation of being dropped like a discarded tool. The shaft walls blur past, stone scraping his shoulders as he tries to catch himself. His gauntlet hits a wall ledge and sparks, but the ledge breaks under his weight, crumbling. He continues. The darkness below opens like a mouth. Chains roar now, huge and close. He hits something, not ground. A moving bed of chain links. It catches him like a conveyor catching scrap and drags him. Metal screams against metal. His plates grind and vibrate as links roll under him, pulling him forward into deeper dark. He tries to stand. The chain bed keeps moving. He plants a sabaton between links. It catches. The moving chain yanks. His ankle joint strains. The rune line there flares. Pain spikes. His sabaton tears free, leaving a gouge. He tries again with his other foot. The chain bed does not care. It is not a predator. It is a function. It drags him toward something. He reaches for the wall. There is no wall. The chain bed runs through a vast chamber, open like a cistern, with pillars that vanish into dark above and below. Other chain rivers run parallel, crossing, weaving, turning in slow circles like gears. The dungeon's bloodstream, and in the distance, faint rune glow, pale as fungus. He sees it. A figure caught in the chain. Cloth. A wooden mask split down the center. The depth warden. It lies twisted among moving links, half crushed, half suspended, dragged slowly in a loop like refuse caught in a drain. The guardian braces against the chain bed and forces himself upright, joints screaming under constant motion. He steps link to link, heavy and awkward, but steadier than he should be because pain has always been his balance. The depth warden turns its cracked mask toward him as he approaches. Runes in the split wood flicker weakly, not bright command glow, dying, but still present, still tethered. It reaches one thin hand out, not in attack, not in plea, a reflex, like a lever seeking the next notch. The guardian grabs the reaching wrist. Bone under cloth, brittle, he yanks. The chain bed fights him, trying to keep the warden in its loop. He pulls harder. Metal plates strain. Rivets creak. He drags the warden's broken body up onto a still platform beside the chain rivers, a maintenance shelf carved from black stone. The moment the warden's weight leaves the moving chain, the chain bed continues without it, indifferent, rolling on. The guardian stands over the warden. The mask's crack reveals pale light inside, pulsing like a weak heartbeat. In the crack, deep inside the wood, something glints, cold, sharp, the staff tip, the missing tooth, the key. The warden raises its hand again. This time it points, shaking, back toward the chain rivers. Return. The imposed word is faint, barely a pressure. The guardian feels it anyway, like a ghost of the leash. He does not return. He crouches and grips the warden's mask with both gauntlets. The wood is tougher than it looks, reinforced with runes that resist tearing. He tightens. The warden convulses. Its cloth shivers. The runes flare in weak protest. He twists. The mask splits further with a sound like dry timber snapping. Light leaks. The warden's pressure spikes into a last desperate surge. Obey. Guard. Return. The words collide inside the guardian's chest and find nothing solid to anchor in, because his scars are not smooth. They slip. The guardian tears the mask open. The staff tip is embedded in the inner rune lattice like a thorn. He grips it. The cold, sharp material bites his gauntlet, biting deeper than metal should bite metal. Pain flashes, pure, clean, informational. He pulls. The staff tip resists, not because it is stuck in wood, because it is stuck in function. It was meant to stay in the warden. It was meant to remain part of the dungeon's hand. He pulls harder. The warden's inner light pulses wildly. A vibration runs through the chamber's chain rivers, as if the dungeon senses the key being removed. The warden's fingers claw weakly at his wrist. Not strong enough to stop, strong enough to communicate one last thing in the only language it has. Do not. He looks down into the crack of the mask. He sees, for the briefest instant, not emptiness, but something like him. A hollow held together by runes. A tool that believed its leash was its identity. A thing that never got to want. He pauses. The warden's inner light flickers. A memory, not his, flashes through him like a thrown spark. Hands in a circle of stone, robed, faces hidden behind metal masks. A voice speaking a word that is not guard. Forge. Then the memory snaps away. The guardian tightens his grip and pulls. The staff tip comes free with a sudden release, like a hook ripped out of flesh. The warden jerks. Its inner light flares once, bright, startling, then collapses. The cloth slumps. The bones go still. No chime, no reassembly. The warden wasn't anchored like him. It was replaceable, disposable. The guardian stands in the chain chamber holding the staff tip in his gauntlet. For the first time in his existence, he holds something that feels like more than a weapon or a tool. A key, a decision, a piece of the dungeon's authority stolen out of its mouth. The chain rivers shift louder now, as if the dungeon grinds its gears in anger. A rune field flares across the chamber ceiling. Light crawls along chain links. The chain bed he arrived on speeds up. The dungeon tries to reclaim what he took. He turns and runs. Heavy armor running on moving chain is not graceful, but he has learned to use momentum like a language. He leaps link to link, timing his steps with the rolling of metal underfoot. The chain bed turns, angling toward a chute that drops into deeper black. He jumps off onto a stone shelf. The chute swallows chain like a feeding mouth. He climbs. Up is harder than down. The shaft walls are smooth. But there are chains, and chains are ladders if you are stubborn enough. He hooks his gauntlets into links and hauls himself up, one heavy pull at a time. The staff tip stays in his grip like a cold nail. The dungeon tries the gravity trick again, pressure building, weight doubling, but he is braced now. He wedges a sabaton into a wall groove and holds through the worst of it, metal screaming but not breaking. He climbs. He reaches the lip of the shaft, pulls himself up into the corridor again, and the air there tastes warmer by comparison. He does not pause. He runs back toward the gate. The pull ahead tightens with each step, guiding him like a scent. The antechamber pulses brighter as he approaches, as if the dungeon senses the key returning and cannot decide whether to welcome it or bite it. The gate waits. The socket waits. He raises the staff tip. The cold, sharp material hums in his gauntlet, vibrating in sympathy with the runes in his chest shard and the woven runes in the gate. A 3-note chord. He steps close enough that the gate's pressure presses into his visor slit. He places the tip into the socket. The gate shudders. Runes flare in a ripple outward, like a stone dropped into a pond of light. For a moment nothing happens. Then the socket accepts. The tip slides in with a smooth certainty, as if it has always belonged there. The woven gate unlocks, not with a click, with a sigh. Stone and metal shift, layers upbraiding, folding back into the walls like muscles releasing tension. The rune glow intensifies until the chamber is bright as day. Air pours through the opening. Not corridor air, not dungeon air. Air that tastes of iron and ash and something older. Something like the forge pool, but vaster. The guardian steps through. The gate closes behind him, not sealing him in, but sealing the antechamber out. The pull behind is gone now. No old circle, no new circle, no leash backward. Only the pressure ahead, only the heart. The core is not a room. It is an infrastructure. He stands at the edge of a balcony carved from black stone that overlooks a cavern so massive his sense of vibration takes a moment to understand the scale. Below him, the dungeon is exposed. Not corridors, not chambers, mechanisms. A lattice of platforms, catwalks, suspended rings and rune-etched conduits that carry pale light the way veins carry blood. Giant chains turn in slow loops, feeding into wheels bigger than houses. Pools of liquid light metal glow in basins carved with spiral runes, their surfaces rippling with silent force. And in the center of everything, the bell. Not a bell shaped like a bell, but the idea of a bell made monstrous. A vast inverted cylinder of metal and stone, suspended by rune lattices and chains, humming with the same tone he has felt since his first rebirth. Runes cover its surface in concentric spirals, each line a groove that holds vibration, like a channel holds water. This is the chime source. This is the hammer of the forge. Beneath the bell, a platform shaped like a circle. No hundreds of circles layered, nested, interlocked, spreads like a mandala of anchoring runes. From that platform, thin lines of light extend outward through the cavern, branching into countless conduits that vanish into the dungeon above. Every circle, every leash, every rebirth, all fed from here. The guardian stands very still, plates humming, and feels the truth settle into him, not as words, but as structure. The dungeon is not a place. It is a machine that makes him. A forge that uses death as its hammer, monsters as its grinding stones, intruders as its sparks, his pain as its heat. He steps onto a descending stair. The stair is metal inlaid with runes. Each step rings softly under his sabatons, and the sound echoes in the cavern like a faint answer to the bell's hum. As he descends, he passes alcoves in the cavern walls. In each alcove, armor, not hanging like before, seated, arranged, suits of plate in different shapes and sizes, some fused, some intact, all empty, tools stored in a chest. He feels faint pressures from them, dim, half-formed presences that never cracked the loop the way he did. Failures or spares. He keeps descending. The deeper he goes, the more the air vibrates, until his plates sing in sympathy. His chest shard throbs. The staff tip in the gate behind him is gone now, left in the socket, accepted as payment. He does not miss it. It was never his. He reaches a platform near the base of the bell. The nested circles here glow brighter than any circle he has stood in, their runes dense and sharp, carved by hands that understood binding like anatomy. In the center of the nested circles rises an obelisk of dark stone, taller than him, covered in runes that twist like entwined serpents. He approaches it. The obelisk hums. The bell above answers, and then the air changes. Not with monsters, with presence. A pressure fills the space around him, immense and close, like the dungeon's mind has finally stepped out from behind its walls. It does not say guard. It does not bother. It speaks in a different language now. A layered vibration that hits his binding directly. A chorus of intent. He feels it more than hears it. But shapes emerge. Words not learned from adventurers, but carved into the runes themselves. Forge, temper, bind. His plates tremble. The obelisk's runes flare and a thread of light lashes out, not hooking his joints like the depth warden's net, but sliding into his chest shard like a key slipping into a lock. Pain blossoms, not destructive, connecting. And suddenly, the cavern around him is not only stone and metal, it is memory, not his. The obelisk pours images into him the way the chime poured force. He stands on the platform and the world overlays itself. He sees hands, human hands, pale in rune light, stained with ink and ash. He sees robed figures in a circle around a pool of glowing metal. He sees them carving runes into plate with chisels that spark. He sees a blank suit of armor, clean, perfect, standing in a circle, empty. He sees the chime mechanism above, smaller than, newly built, its runes unscarred. A voice speaks, not to him, but through him, as if the obelisk uses his emptiness as a sounding chamber. The voice is many voices layered, old, dry, certain. We have no time, the chorus says, not in air, but in rune pressure. It returns. The memory shifts. A sky split by something like a wound. A shadow on the horizon that eats light. Cities burning. sorcerers in towers screaming spells into storms, a shape in the dark that does not die when struck, a returning evil, not a monster, not a beast, a calamity with intent. The chorus speaks again. Steel breaks, it says. Flesh fails. Souls flee. We require a weapon that can be remade. The memory shifts again. The blank armor in the circle flares with runes. The chime rings. The armor stands. Not a man, a function. The chorus watches, satisfied. Guard, they say, and the word becomes a command carved into the world. Guard. He feels it, like an echo of his own beginning. Then the memory tilts, showing the design behind his suffering. Chambers built around the circle, corridors calibrated for intruder traffic, monsters seeded like ingredients, traps placed to kill not only intruders, but him, at specific rates, specific intensities, death measured, reassembly timed, pain repeated until it becomes structure. They are forging, not metal, will, not mindlessness, endurance. The chorus continues. Each death tempers, they say. Each return strengthens. Each crack reveals weakness. Weakness is corrected. The memory shows the depth warden being built. Bone and metal wrapped in cloth, mask carved, rune object placed in its hand. A maintenance tool given a face so it can enforce the forge's rules. The memory shows the hanging armors, spares, failures, half-awakenings stored for later. The memory shows the sealed door, not as a mystery, but as a boundary, the point of release that is never meant to be reached until the weapon is ready. The guardian stands under the bell and understands with sick clarity his endless deaths were not an accident. They were not cruelty for cruelty's sake. They were process. He is not a prisoner the dungeon forgot. He is a blade the dungeon is sharpening. And now he is at the final step. The chorus presses closer, rune pressure wrapping around his binding-like hands. Completion, it says. The nested circles under his feet flare. A hook point in his chest, older than his scars, lights up, and a new word slams into him. Not guard, not return. A word that tries to define him completely. Weapon. The command hits like a hammer. His joints lock. His plates align. The scars he carved into himself flare hot as the binding tries to smooth them out. For a heartbeat, he feels the old mindlessness threatening to flood back in, drowning the crack he fought so hard to widen. The chorus speaks again, softer, almost reverent. You will stand against it, it says. You will not break. You will not die. The irony is a blade. He has died more times than any living thing could imagine. They say it like a gift. The nested circles flare again. Light snakes up his greaves, into his thighs, across his torso, into his chest shard. The shard vibrates violently, caught between his will and their design. The chorus pushes. Serve. The word is not spoken, it is imposed. The guardian feels the shape of his own thought rise to meet it like steel meeting steel. I am not your tool. The thought is not polite. It is not argument. It is refusal carved into emptiness. The imposed command strains. The chorus stiffens. He feels their surprise as a ripple in the rune pressure. Tools do not refuse. Weapons do not speak back. The chorus presses harder. The bell above him hums louder, and the hum becomes the pre-chime pulse, building toward impact. They are going to ring it. They are going to use the bell like they always have, to smash him back into shape, to make his refusal a flaw to be corrected. The guardian moves, not forward, not attacking. He raises his gauntlet and slams it into the obelisk. Metal meets stone with a boom that reverberates through the cavern. The obelisk's runes flicker. The chorus's pressure wavers. He slams again. A crack spiderwebs across the obelisk's surface. The chorus surges in anger. You cannot. He slams again. The crack widens. The memory stream stutters. The imposed weapon command slips for a fraction. In that fraction, he acts. He drags his gauntlet claws across the obelisk's runes. Sparks fly. Pain lances through his binding as the obelisk tries to resist damage. But he has learned the only lesson that matters in a forge. A scar changes function. He carves. The obelisk screams in light. The bell above him begins to ring. Not the chime he knows. Small, personal, always on the circle. This is the true hammer. The first strike hits him through the air, through the runes, through the nested circles, through his chest shard. It is not sound. It is force. It hits every rivet at once and tries to pull him into perfect alignment, tries to make him clean, tries to erase the misfit edges that let him choose. He staggers. His plates vibrate so hard his vision blurs. The weapon command slams back down. He feels his gauntlets wanting to lower into obedience. He resists. The scars in his chest burn like coals. He slams his gauntlet into his own breastplate, hard, right over the shard. Clang. The impact jars the shard, disrupting the clean resonance the bell is trying to force. The weapon command stutters. The chorus recoils, shocked at the self-inflicted disruption. He does it again. Clang. Pain blooms. But pain is information, and information is weapon now. His weapon, not theirs. He steps off the nested circles. The moment his sabaton leaves the brightest rune line, the imposed pressure slackens just enough for him to move freely. The chorus screams inside the runes. Return, stand, complete. The cavern responds. From the alcoves along the walls, armor shifts. Suits that have sat dormant for ages jerk upright, runes flaring. 1, 10, 20. A legion of empty plates pulled by the same force that once pulled him. They step onto catwalks and platforms, metal ringing like teeth chattering. Not mind, command. Guard the forge. Remove the floor. They converge. The guardian turns away from the obelisk and faces the advancing dead metal. He does not have breath, but something in him releases a sound anyway. Metal grinding, a low growl. He has fought intruders. He has fought monsters. Now he fights his own reflection. The fursuit reaches him and swings a gauntlet. He catches it. The suit is heavy, but not as heavy as him. Its plates are thinner, its runes cleaner, its binding weaker. It is an unfinished tool. He twists the arm and tears it off at the shoulder. The suit staggers. He drives his knee into its chest and the plates cave inward. The suit collapses. Another hits him from the side, grabbing his shoulder and trying to lock him. A third grabs his leg. They fight like a net, not a blade, trying to restrain. The chorus wants him held still, so the bell can ring him back into obedience. He refuses to be held. He slams his back into a pillar, crushing one suit between his plates and stone. He swings his gauntlet in a wide arc and knocks 3 off a catwalk into the chain rivers below, where metal bodies vanish into moving links and are dragged away like scrap. More come. Their rune glow brightens with each step. The bell rings again. Hammer strike. The weapon command surges. His scars burn. He staggers. He fights. The cavern becomes a storm of metal collisions and rune light flashes. And through it all, the chorus keeps pressing, voice layered and furious now. This is why you were made. This time the words hit him not as explanation, but as accusation. He answers with action. He charges the obelisk again. The legion tries to stop him, piling on. He drags them with him. He reaches the obelisk and drives his gauntlet claws into the cracked rune surface. He pries. Stone groans. The obelisk resists like bone resists breaking. He pries harder. The bell rings again. Hammer strike. His plates vibrate. He almost loses grip. He drives his sabaton into the obelisk's base. Crack. The obelisk fractures. Light spills from inside like blood. The chorus screams, not in pain, but in alarm. The memory stream floods him again, unbidden now. Images of sorcerers panicking, hands reaching to stabilize runes, mouths open in silent shouts as the forge threatens to destabilize. He sees the truth behind their certainty. They did not build this perfectly. They built it desperately. They bound themselves into it to keep it running beyond their deaths. They are not gods. They are corpses clinging to a plan. The guardian pries the obelisk open. Inside is not stone. Inside is a core of condensed rune light, spinning slowly like a heart made of script. Thin threads extend from it into the nested circles, into the bell, into the conduits that feed every rebirth node above. This is the dungeon's central binding. Its mind, its leash network, its forge heart. The chorus surges out of the core like wind. Do not. The word hits him hard enough to lock his knees. The legion of armors tightens around him, seizing his limbs. The bell begins to ring continuously now, the hum building into an endless hammer pressure that tries to flatten him into obedient shape. His scars burn. His chest shard throbs violently, caught between being absorbed and being torn out. For a moment, he feels himself slipping. The old mindlessness presses at the edges. Guard, weapon, serve. The words pile on, trying to bury his selfhood under function. And in that crushing pressure, he sees something else in the memory stream. A scene the chorus did not intend to show him. A sorcerer, young, face hollow with exhaustion, arguing with another. We are making a slave, the young one says. We are making a necessity, the other answers. And if it awakens, then it will thank us when it saves the world. Thank. As if gratitude can be forged with a hammer. The guardian's emptiness tightens around a new thought. Not refusal, not denial. A question aimed like a spear. If I am your weapon, who chooses where I strike? The chorus falters. The bell's pressure wavers for a fraction. In that fraction, he makes the only move that matters. He stops fighting the hammer. He stops resisting the forge. He steps into it. He lowers his head and lets the bell's continuous ring pour through him. Not as correction, but as fuel. He opens the hollow space inside his armor. Opens it deliberately, not as weakness, but as mouth. The forge heart core inside the obelisk spins faster, sensing opportunity. It reaches for him. Threads of light lash out and sink into his chest shard. Pain explodes, but he does not flinch. He pulls, not with gauntlets, with will. He pulls the forge heart toward him. The chorus screams. The legion tightens in panic, trying to restrain him. He pulls anyway. The core's threads strain, stretching like tendons being ripped from bone. The bell rings so hard the cavern shakes. The nested circles flare. The conduits in the walls pulse wildly. Above, somewhere far away, every rebirth circle in the dungeon flickers. The entire machine trembles on the edge of failure. The guardian keeps pulling. The forge heart lurches toward him, tearing free from the obelisk's cracked shell. Light spills, The chorus becomes incoherent, voices overlapping in frantic command. Stop, bind, return, complete. He answers with the simplest truth he has ever forged. Not without me. And then he does the thing no tool was designed to do. He takes the dungeon into himself. The forge heart hits his hollow chest like a meter hitting a grave. Light floods him. Not warm light, cold light that burns like winter fire. It pours into every seam, every rune line, every scar he carved, and tries to overwrite him with the dungeon's design. For a moment, he is nothing but pain and script. He feels the first circle, the cold flagstone, the command guard. He feels the slime pooling at his birth. He feels the depth warden's hook light. He feels the forge pool reshaping his plates. He feels the hall of masks whispering names. He feels the crack in the sealed door and the taste of outside air. All of it, every loop, every death, stacked and compressed into a single instant. The forge heart tries to resolve him into a final product. A deathless knight bound to duty, a weapon pointed at a future evil, a blade with no hand of its own. He holds on to the one thing the forge never accounted for, the scars he chose. Scars are imperfection. Imperfection is deviation. Deviation is self. He uses those scars like anchors. He lets the forge heart fill him, but he forces it to fill around his choices rather than replacing them. The chorus thrashes inside the light, trying to impose, trying to command, trying to shove him into the shape they planned. He fights them from the inside, not with gauntlets, with identity. I, not tool. Dungeon-born, want, choice. The forge heart convulses. The light inside him darkens at its edges, like embers smothered into black flame. The bell above him changes tone. For the first time, it does not ring like a hammer. It rings like a heartbeat. The legion of armors around him freezes. Their rune glow flickers. The nested circles underfoot stutter. The conduits in the walls dim. The machine hesitates because its heart is no longer in its chest. Its heart is in him. The guardian straightens. The armors still cling to him, but their grip feels weaker, uncertain. He lifts one gauntlet slowly. His fingers are not just metal now. Cold black flame leaks from the seams like smoke. Not smoke, a presence visible, a soul given shape by force. The guardian looks down at his own hand and feels something impossible. Weight from inside. Not just plates, not just binding. An interior. He is no longer a hollow held upright by the dungeon's will. He is a hollow filled with his own dark fire. A death knight. The title lands in him not as command, but as description. He does not smile. He has no mouth. But the black flame in his visor slit brightens like eyes opening. The chorus inside him screams, "You are ours." He answers without sound, but the answer is clear in the way his flame steadies. No, not yours, mine. He flexes his shoulders. The legion's grips break as if their hands have lost the permission to hold him. They stumble back. He steps forward once. The nested circles underfoot dim further, their control compromised. He steps again, and as he walks, the cavern responds to him the way it used to respond to the dungeon. Conduits pulse toward him. Chains slow. Rune lattices shift. The machine recognizes its heart. The chorus thrashes, trying to steer him, trying to turn his new power back into their leash. He ignores them. Or rather, he does something better than ignore. He listens. He takes what matters. He takes the truth of the returning evil, the image of a sky split like a wound, the sense of a darkness that does not die. He takes the urgency. He takes the purpose, and he discards the obedience. He turns toward the bell, the massive hammer heart hanging above. It is still connected by rune lattices, but those lattices now feel like veins attached to him. He reaches out, not physically, with his new interior weight, with the forge heart's power repurposed. The bell's runes flare as if in surprise. The chorus shrieks inside him. No, the chime. He pulls. The bell shudders. Chains strain. The entire cavern groans as metal and stone protest being moved. He pulls harder. The bell begins to descend. Not smoothly, violently. The rune lattices snap one by one, light whipping as connections sever. The bell drops. It hits the nested circle's platform with a sound that is not sound, but catastrophe. Rune light explodes outward. Shockwaves ripple through the cavern. Armors are flung off catwalks like toys. Chains jerk wildly. Platforms shake. Above, in the dungeon corridors, every circle flares and then dims as the chime network stutters. The Guardian stands in the center of the blast. The shockwave hits his plates and tries to tear him apart. He holds. Black flame pours through his seams, reinforcing. He feels the forge heart inside him anchor his pieces not to a circle, not to a leash, but to himself. He does not scatter. The bell cracks. A fracture runs along its surface, splitting rune spirals. Light leaks from inside like blood from a wound. The chorus inside him screams louder, voices overlapping in panic. This will collapse the forge. Yes, that is the point. He steps onto the cracked bell's surface, climbing it like a hill of broken authority. The metal is cold and vibrating. He plants his sabatons in rune grooves. He reaches down with both gauntlets and grips the fracture. He tears. The bell resists like a world resisting ending. He tears harder. The fracture widens. Light spills out in a flood, and in that flood, he feels all the stored power the dungeon has been hoarding. Every death energy, every recycled binding, every stolen spark of intruder soul, every monster's life used as process heat, a reservoir, a battery, a forge full of fuel. He opens his hollow chest again and drinks. The black flame inside him flares, swallowing light, turning it darker, colder, more controlled. Not destruction, integration. He absorbs the dungeon's core power into his new self until the bell's glow dims, until the fracture is no longer bleeding. The bell becomes just metal and stone, heavy and dead. The forge's heart is fully in him now. The chorus is still there, but weaker, like ghosts trapped in smoke. He can feel them arguing, pleading, commanding, but their commands no longer find hooks. He has no tether points left for them. He burned them away and replaced them with his own anchoring flame. He steps down from the bell's husk. The cavern shakes. Without its heart, the dungeon systems begin to fail. Platforms tremble, conduits sputter, chains grind and then stop. The nested circles underfoot flicker, their runes dimming like dying embers. The legion of armors collapses one by one, their bindings losing power. They fall like empty suits, clanging in piles. The Guardian looks around the cavern, the machine laid bare now dying, and he feels something like pity. Not for the sorcerer's plan, for the tools left behind, the half-awake suits in alcoves, the dim presences that never got to crack their loops. They were made as spares, as backups, as failures. He cannot free them cleanly. But he can do one thing. He reaches out with his black flame and touches the conduits that feed the rebirth circles. He pulls the power back, gently, if such a thing can be gentle, cutting off the flow. Across the dungeon above, circles go dark. The chimes that ring endlessly stop. Not silence, a cessation, a chain snapping. And as the rebirth network dies, the dim presences stored in armors flicker out like candles finally allowed to go out. Oblivion, release, he gives them that much. Then he turns toward the only path left. Out. The gate he came through is sealed behind him, but the dungeon is collapsing now. Mechanisms are failing. Walls that were once iron rules become merely stone. He climbs. Not back through corridors the way he came. Those are shaking, breaking, turning dangerous with falling rubble and sputtering traps. Instead, he follows the conduits. Veins of rune light still faintly glowing, leading upward like a map drawn in dying fire. He moves across catwalks as they sway. He leaps gaps as platforms fall away. Chains hang slack now, no longer turning, no longer dragging. In one place, a massive gear wheel has jammed and cracked, spilling shards of metal the size of shields. He walks across them, heavy, unstoppable. The chorus inside him whispers, not command now, desperation. If you leave, it returns unopposed. He does not answer aloud, but his black flame flickers with a thought that is neither obedience nor denial. If it returns, I will choose. I will stand because I decide to stand, not because a circle tells me. He reaches the gate chamber. The woven gate is still there, but its runes are dim, its latch power gone. The socket no longer holds the staff tip as a key. It is just an indentation now, dead. He pushes. The gate shifts, stone grinding on stone, and opens like something losing rigidity. He steps back into the antechamber. The rune glow here flickers like a failing heartbeat. He crosses it and reaches the maintenance door he fooled earlier. It is half open. He pushes through. The corridor beyond is shaking. Dust falls in steady streams. Torches gutter and go out as rune lights fail. He moves uphill, not because the pull behind tells him, because he remembers the direction of down, and he can invert it now. Up is escape. He passes the Hall of Masks. The carved faces in alcoves are dark now, their rune eyes dead stone. No whispers, no labels. Silence. He passes the forge pool chamber from earlier depths, the smaller basin where light metal once tried to repair him. The basin is cold now, its glow extinguished. He passes the armory room of hanging suits. They hang still, but without rune light they are just shells. His black flame senses faint residual presences in some. Embers that did not fully dissipate yet. He does not stop. He cannot carry them. He continues. The stairwell spirals up. Above, the dungeon groans like a wounded beast. Stone cracks. A distant collapse echoes. He climbs faster, sabatons clanging. He reaches the boundary where slime once refused to cross. Now the slime is gone, dried into inert residue as the dungeon's sustaining magic fails. He climbs into the upper corridors, his old world of torch-black stone and blood smell. Those corridors are changing. Without the forge heart, the dungeon is not replenishing itself. Cracks spread, moisture seeps. The air feels less controlled, more like a normal cave. He reaches the corridor where the sealed door stands. The door he guarded for endless loops. The slab that never opened. It is still there. But now, faint hairline cracks run along its rune-etched edges. The runes are dark, inert. The repelling pressure he always felt is gone. He stands before it and feels the emptiness where the leash used to be. This door was never meant for him until the forge declared him ready. The forge is dead. The door is just stone. He places his gauntlet on it. Stone is cold, no response. He presses. The door grinds. Dust spills from its edges. The slab shifts. It opens. Not with magic, with physics. With the simple truth that stone doors open when the locks are broken. A gap appears. Air spills through. Real air. Not corridor damp, not forge ash. Air that smells of wet earth and wind and things growing. He pauses. The black flame inside him flares, restless. He has wanted this without knowing it. A world that is not stone. He pushes the door wider and steps through. Outside is night. He does not know what night is, not truly. Only that the air is colder and bigger, and the darkness above is not pressing down like ceiling stone. The sky is a vast black bowl scattered with faint lights, stars, though he does not have the word yet. Wind hits his armor and whistles through seams. He stops. For a moment, he simply stands in it, letting the wind touch his plates, letting it cool the black flame in his chest until it steadies into a quiet burn. Behind him, the dungeon groans, not the subtle hum of runes, the sound of rock giving way. A deep rumble spreads through the ground as the forge machine collapses inward, its unsupported chambers falling like a dying lung. The earth shudders under his sabatons. Dust billows from the open doorway, like breath escaping a corpse. He turns his visor back toward it. He sees the opening he came through framed in stone, and beyond it only darkness and falling dust. He feels no tether, no pull, no pressure, no command, not even the faintest whisper of guard. The silence inside him is enormous, not emptiness, space, space he can fill. He looks down at his gauntlet. Black flame leaks from seams, curling like smoke, and then drawing back in, obedient not to an external rule, but to his own steadiness. He is a death knight now, not a title imposed, but a form he took by consuming the forge that tried to own him. He is alive in a way he has never been, not breathing, not beating, but existing from his own center. Behind him, the dungeon collapses further. The ground splits, the stone doorway cracks, then the whole hillside, or whatever structure housed the entrance, slumps, sinking, folding in on itself like a bad dream losing cohesion. With one final rumble, it goes. The entrance seals under rubble. The forge is gone. The loop is broken. The endless cycle ends not with oblivion, but with him standing under open sky, holding the knowledge the forge shoved into him. A returning evil is coming. They built him to be a weapon against it. They sharpened him with death. They meant to bind him with purpose. He understands now why he suffered. Not because the suffering was justified, because it was intentional. He turns his visor forward, away from the buried dungeon. Wind pushes at him like a hand urging him onward. He takes one step, then another. Each step is heavy. Each step is chosen. And the black flame inside him, quiet, steady, his, answers the open world with a single thought, clear as any command but belonging only to him. I will decide. He stands where the dungeon's mouth used to be, rubble now, a fresh scar in the hillside. Stone dust still hangs in the air, tasting of ground teeth. When the wind shifts, it carries the smell of crushed runes, old magic broken open and left to rot in the open world. Behind him there is no pull, no leash point, no circle humming in the bones of the earth, waiting to drag him backward. He waits anyway, because waiting is what he was, because motion without command is still a strange shape in him, like an untested joint. The sky above is an enormous darkness, shallow at the horizon and deep overhead, scattered with faint coal lights. Stars, though he does not have the word yet. They do not flicker like rune glow. They do not pulse like a chime. They simply exist. He tips his helm up and stares until the black flame behind his visor steadies into a calmer burn. Inside his chest, the forge heart, now his heart, turns slowly, not grinding like a machine, not pushing like a command, turning like a thing that can choose its rhythm. He listens, wind through grass, distant water somewhere, a night bird calling, the creak of trees shifting, and beneath it all, something else, the faintest echo of the chorus still trapped within his flame, not strong enough to bind him now, not sharp enough to cut through his scars, but present, like embers under ash. They whisper without mouths. Purpose, it returns. You were made. He compresses his will around the words, the way he once compressed it around pain. Not a shout, a pressure, a quiet refusal that has become habit. The whispers fade into background hiss. The world is loud without them. He turns away from the rubble and begins to walk. He does not know what distance is yet. In the dungeon, distance was measured in corridors, in turns, in how fast the tether tightened. It was measured in how many steps he could steal before the rule snapped him back. Here, the ground does not care how far he travels. His sabatons crush frost-crusted grass and sink into soft earth. Each step leaves an imprint that does not vanish behind him. There is no reset, no chime to erase tracks, no smooth loop. The first time he notices that, he stops. He turns and looks back at the line of his own print stretching into darkness, a trail, proof, a thing that stays. It is such a simple concept that it hits him like a hammer. In the dungeon, only scars stayed, and only because he forced them to. Here, everything stays. The wind will soften the prints eventually. Rain will flatten them. Time will erase them. But it will do so honestly, not instantly, not cleanly, not by design. Time. He does not yet know how to think about it, but the forge heart in his chest turns and turns, and each turn feels like a beat of something new. Continuity. He walks on. The land slopes downward away from the collapsed entrance. Trees gather thicker ahead, dark shapes with branches like reaching hands. The black flame in his visor paints them with faint edges, but most of the light comes from the sky. He is not afraid of the dark. He was made in it. But this darkness is different. It is not enclosed. It is not pressed close by stone. It is not full of traps. It feels indifferent. He moves through the tree line. A rabbit bolts from underbrush, white tail flashing. He stops again. The rabbit does not attack him, does not circle, does not obey. It simply runs because it senses something wrong and wants to be elsewhere. He watches it disappear and feels, for the first time, the shape of being unwanted by nature. The dungeon wanted him. The dungeon needed him. Even the dungeon's monsters wanted him dead, because the dungeon needed him corrected. Out here, the living world simply does not want death near it. His black flame flares a little brighter, then steadies. He walks. Somewhere between one tree and the next, the sky lightens. It is subtle at first, a thinning of black near the horizon, a faint bruise of grey-blue. The stars above begin to fade, not all at once, but one by one, like sparks dying. He stops again, because stopping is becoming a way of learning. The horizon bleeds. The colour is not rune glow, not torchlight. It is something softer, spreading like water poured into ink. Dawn. He has no word for it, but he feels its approach in his plates. In the dungeon, heat meant danger. Fire, acid, spells that unthreaded. Heat meant pain, correction, death. This heat is not sharp. It rolls in slowly. It touches the metal of his armor and warms it without burning. The warmth slides into seams and sits there like a hand pressed against a cold object. The black flame in his visor reacts. It does not die. It does not recoil. It dims slightly, as if the world's light competes with it. For a moment, panic flickers, an old reflex. If the flame dies, I die. In the dungeon, his awareness was tied to the binding's glow. When runes were disrupted, he unraveled. He holds still and tests. He does not fight the dimming. He lets the dawn wash over him. The black flame steadies again, smaller but denser, like an ember protected from wind. It is not dependent on darkness. It is his. The sun crests the horizon. Light pours across the trees, turning frost to glitter. Mist rises from low ground in thin white ribbons. He stands in it, a shape of dark metal in a world suddenly painted in color, and realizes something with a cold clarity that feels almost like fear. If he falls now, if he breaks, there may be no chime, no circle, no forced return. He lifts one gauntlet and turns it in the sunlight. Scratches catch light and become bright lines. Dents become shadows. He is not invisible out here. He is not a rumor. He is an object that can be seen. And if he can be seen, he can be hunted. The thought does not come with command. It comes with consequence. His forge heart turns steady. He keeps walking. Water finds him before he finds it. He hears it first, the constant soft violence of a stream over stone. In the dungeon, water dripped in patient intervals from stalactites and cracks, measured and trapped. This water moves freely. He follows the sound through trees and brush, until he reaches a narrow creek cutting through the forest. The water is clear. Stones beneath it gleam. The surface reflects the sky. He kneels on the bank. The motion is awkward. Armor is not designed for comfort, but his joints have been remade by forge power, and he manages. He leans forward and looks into the moving mirror. At first he sees only sky, then his own shape fills it. A helm, a narrow visor slit, dark metal edges, black flame flickering behind empty eyes. No face, no flesh, no mouth. The reflection does not show the hollow inside him, only the proof of it. A shape that should contain a man and contains only fire. He stares for a long time. In the dungeon, he never saw himself. There were polished surfaces sometimes, but they were warped by torchlight and movement. There were mirrors in the hall of masks, but those were not meant for truth, only for pressure and label. This reflection is indifferent. It shows him without judgment. He dips his gauntlet into the stream. The water is cold against metal. He lifts his hand and watches droplets roll off, catching sunlight. A simple act. It should mean nothing. It means everything. Because he can do it without being punished. Because he can choose to touch water. Because touching water out here does not trigger a trap or a spell. He reaches up and touches the edge of his visor slit, tracing it as if he could widen it, as if he could make room for a face. He cannot. He is what he is. A hollow armor with a heart made of stolen forge light and black flame. He lowers his hand and looks at his reflection again. A thought forms slowly, not as imposed word, but as something he shapes himself. If there is no chime, then I am one life, one continuity, one future. The concept is too large to hold all at once. It slips, it reforms, it hangs at the edge of his mind like a blade he does not yet know how to wield. He stands. The creek's water keeps flowing, indifferent to his revelation. He turns and follows the creek downstream, because water leads somewhere, and he needs somewhere that isn't rubble. He finds a road by smell before sight. Smoke, faint and far. Cook fire smoke, not rune ash. Animal musk, sweat. The scent of living bodies clustered together. It hits him like a memory of intruders, but without the sharp edge of threat. This smell is not creeping into a dungeon. It belongs to the world above. He slows. Trees thin. He reaches the edge of the forest and sees open land, fields of pale winter grass, fences of rough wood, and beyond that, a cluster of buildings, roofs, chimneys, a village. His plates hum, not with command, with instinct. In the dungeon, people meant invasion. People meant blades and spells and nets. People meant death, then rebirth. Here, people mean unknown. Unknown is dangerous when you only get one life. He stands at the tree line and watches. A woman steps out of a building carrying a bucket. She pauses, looks up at the sky, then walks toward a well. A child chases a dog in circles, laughing. Two men drag a cart, their breath visible in the cold. The sounds reach him as thin echoes. Laughter, conversation, normal noise, not battle cries, not the hiss of spells. He realizes he is holding still in a way that is almost hiding. He has never hidden. He has never needed to. The dungeon was his territory. Intruders came to him. Out here, he is the intruder. That thought lands heavy. His black flame dims instinctively, trying to make him less visible, but it cannot. Metal catches light. He is a silhouette against the trees. A figure moves on the road leading to the village. A lone traveler, cloak pulled tight, walking with a staff. The traveler stops abruptly. He has been seen. The traveler stares toward the tree line, frozen. Even at this distance, the guardian can sense the traveler's heartbeat quicken, the heat of fear rising like smoke. The traveler turns and runs, not back toward the village, away, stumbling through the field, cloak flapping. The guardian does not chase. He does not want to be chased. He watches the traveler vanish behind a rise in the land. In the village, a dog barks. A man looks up, squinting toward the tree line. Another follows his gaze. They point. He is too far to hear their words, but their posture changes. Shoulders tense. Hands move toward tools that could become weapons. He takes one step back into the trees. Leaves rustle. The village's barking intensifies. He retreats deeper into the forest until the sounds fade. He leans his gauntlet against a tree trunk and stands still, letting the bark bite into his metal fingers. He is free. And freedom, it turns out, does not mean welcome. It means choices and consequences. He stays in the forest until the sun dips and the light turns orange. Then he begins moving again, skirting the village at a wide distance, keeping the smell of smoke to one side rather than ahead of him. He does not know where he is going, but he knows he cannot go there yet. Night returns. He learns that night is not a fixed thing. It arrives differently here than it did in the dungeon. It comes with a cooling of air, a damp settling, an increase in insect sound. It comes with the stars returning one by one. He stops under a tree and stands still for a long time, because he does not know what rest means in a body that does not sleep. In the dungeon, he had nothing like sleep. He had nothing like exhaustion, only damage. He would fight until he broke, then vanish into nothingness until the chime stitched him back. Out here, there is no chime to force pause. If he keeps moving forever, will he wear down? Will his joints grind themselves smooth? Will the forge heart inside him burn itself out? He does not know. He experiments. He turns his will inward and tries to dim the black flame. The flame shrinks, flickers, then steadies again. It resists being extinguished. It is not a torch. It is not fed by oil. It is fed by him. He finds a compromise. He lets the flame settle into something like coals, low, contained. The world becomes darker. The stars become sharper. He stands like that for what might be hours, measuring time by the slow travel of moonlight through branches. He does not drift into unconsciousness. He cannot. But something in his forge heart slows, and the endless alertness of guarding loosens slightly. He realizes with a strange bitterness that he does not know how to relax. He was never built for it. The chorus inside him stirs. Weapon, stand, purpose. He squeezes the whispers into silence again. Not without effort. Not without cost. The night passes. At some point, the air becomes colder and thin frost forms on his armor. He watches it form, fascinated. He watches it melt when the first hint of dawn arrives. Time keeps moving. Forward only. On the third day, he thinks it is the third, though counting is crude. He finds evidence of violence. Not dungeon violence. Not the trapped, repetitive kind. A patch of churned earth beside a narrow road. Broken wagon wheel. Blood dark on the ground. Bodies. 2 men in travel leathers lie face down. A horse sprawled nearby, legs stiff. A woman's body half in a ditch, hair spread like spilled ink. The sight hits him differently than the piles of bones in the dungeon. Those bones were intruders, invaders' threats. Their deaths were part of a rhythm. These bodies are simply ended. No chime will rebuild them. No circle will gather their pieces. They will rot here unless something moves them. His forge heart turns once. Heavy, he steps closer. Crows burst from a tree and circle overhead, harsh cawing. He kneels beside one of the men and touches the throat with 2 metal fingers, feeling for vibration. Nothing. He touches the chest. Nothing. He does not know why he does it. He already knows what stillness means now. He looks at the horse. Flies already gathering. He stands and scans the road. Tracks. Boot prints. Many. Leading away. Bandits. He has heard that word before, in intruders' mouths. He doesn't know it exactly, but he understands the concept. Living predators that hunt other living for survival or greed. He looks down at the bodies again. In the dungeon, he was a predator. Here he is. What? He was made to stop intruders, to guard a door, to be a weapon against a coming evil. None of those definitions help him here, staring at a slaughter on a road. He turns away, then stops, because turning away is a choice, and he can feel the shape of that choice now. It has weight. It will not be erased by death. If he turns away, he is free to continue wandering. He owes nothing. He was never taught to owe. If he does not turn away, if he follows the tracks, he risks everything. He risks being seen, being hunted, being killed permanently. He stands in the road and feels something inside him pull. Not a tether, not a command, a want. Not even for justice, because he doesn't know the word. A want for intervention. A want to stop something, because he decides it should stop. It is the closest he has come to purpose that is not imposed. He follows the tracks. The bandits are not far. They have made camp in a shallow hollow beside the road, hidden by brush. A fire burns low. Voices murmur. Laughter, thin, cruel. He watches from the tree line. There are 6. One sharp-faced man sharpening a blade. 2 others dividing bags, arguing. A woman with a crossbow leaning against her knee. Another man with a spear, pacing. A leader, broad, scarred, sitting on a log with a cup. They have the traveller's goods piled near the fire. A cloak, a small chest, a bundle wrapped in cloth. He watches their hands move over stolen things with casual ownership. Something hot stirs in his black flame. Not rage the way it was in the dungeon, pure reaction. This is slower, colder. It has edges. He steps out of the trees. The bandits look up. For a heartbeat, silence. Then someone swears. The crossbow snaps up. The spear lowers. The leader stands, eyes widening. They see armor and assume man. They see black flame in the visor and realize not. Undead, someone shouts, voice cracking. Undead. The word hits him like a label thrown across distance. He stores it. It fits. It is true in a way monster is too vague. The crossbow fires. The bolt slams into his shoulder and sticks, vibrating. Pain flares, not overwhelming, but sharp enough to remind him. This matters now. He keeps walking. The spearman charges, yelling. In the dungeon, he would have crushed the throat, snapped the spine, ended the threat cleanly. That was function. Here he hesitates, not out of mercy, but out of uncertainty. If he kills them, he becomes something. If he does not, he risks others. The spear jabs at his chest. He catches the shaft and twists, ripping it from the man's hands. He swings it away, and it clatters into brush. The man stumbles back, shocked. The leader roars and charges with an axe. The axe bites into the guardian's forearm, scraping sparks. The blade wedges, then slides off. The guardian steps in and grabs the leader by the collar. Leather compresses. The leader's breath comes fast, fear sweat sharp. The leader swings again, wild, axe scraping along the guardian's pauldron. The guardian tightens his grip and lifts. The leader's feet leave the ground. The leader gags, hands clawing at metal fingers. The bandits freeze. The crossbow woman fumbles another bolt. The sharp-faced man drops the bag and reaches for a dagger. The guardian holds the leader up and looks at the others through his visor slit. He cannot speak, but he can communicate pressure. He lets the black flame swell outward, not exploding, but blooming like a warning. Cold black heat licking from seams, spilling into the air. The bandits recoil. One takes a step back. Another drops his blade and runs. The guardian watches him flee into trees, then looks back to the remaining 5. He lowers the leader slowly until the man's boots touch ground again. The leader coughs, choking, and stumbles back, clutching his throat. The guardian points, one heavy motion, down the road away from the bodies. Go, leave. The bandits stare, not understanding at first, then understanding too well. This thing is letting them live. The leader spits blood and snarls something, defiance, humiliation. He raises the axe again, stubborn. The guardian feels the decision forming, not imposed, chosen. He cannot allow this man to keep doing this. He steps forward and closes both gauntlets around the leader's head. One hand on each side, metal fingers pressing into skull through skin. The leader's eyes widen, suddenly clear. The guardian squeezes. Bone cracks. The leader's body goes limp. Silence slams down. The remaining bandits stare at the dead leader, then at the guardian. The crossbow woman drops her weapon and backs away, shaking. The dagger man raises his blade, but his hand trembles. The guardian does not chase them. He points again. Go. This time they obey, scrambling away into the dark brush, leaving their stolen pile behind like offerings to a nightmare. The guardian stands in the camp with the dead leader at his feet and feels nothing that fits. No satisfaction, no command completion. Only the weight of a life ended by his choice. He looks at his gauntlets. There is blood on them, warm, real. It will not vanish. He turns them slowly in the firelight and watches blood shine. This is what one life means, not just his, everyone's. He does not know how to carry that knowledge, but it embeds in him the way his scars embedded, as structure. He kneels and gathers the stolen goods into a rough pile. He does not know what to do with them. He cannot return them to the dead. But leaving them here feels wrong too, like leaving a weapon in a child's reach. He takes the cloak. It is heavy wool, dark grey, lined with rough fur. He drapes it over his shoulders. The fabric catches on his armor edges, settles awkwardly, but it covers some of his metal, dulling his silhouette. He takes the small chest and cracks it open with a gauntlet. Inside coins, a few rings, a paper-wrapped bundle of dried herbs. He sets it all back. He does not want coins. He does not know how to use them. But he takes one ring, plain iron, not gold. He does not know why. Because it is simple. Because it is shaped to be worn. Because it feels like a thing that belongs to a life with continuity. He slides the ring onto one metal finger joint. It sits there, absurd and small against his gauntlet. He closes his fist. The ring remains. He opens his fist. The ring remains. No chime takes it. No reset erases it. He stands with a cloak on his shoulders and an iron ring on his finger and feels, for the first time, the strange comfort of possession. Not as greed, as proof that time is real. He leaves the camp and returns to the road, walking until the smoke smell fades behind him. He does not go back to the village. He approaches at dusk, staying at the edge of fields, watching lights bloom in windows, hearing distant dogs bark. He knows what will happen if he steps into the open. Fear, weapons, shouting. He has one cloak now, but a cloak does not hide metal footsteps. He chooses a different path. He circles wide until he finds a small graveyard on a hill overlooking the village, stone markers leaning crooked, a low fence half fallen. He stops at the edge. The ground here is full of the dead. He expects his black flame to surge, hungry. It does not. It steadies, quieter, as if in respect or recognition. He steps inside the fence, careful not to break more wood than necessary. The grave markers are carved with symbols, names perhaps, dates. He cannot read them. He kneels beside one and touches the stone. Cold, rough, permanent. He thinks of the bandit leader's skull cracking under his hands. He thinks of the travelers' bodies on the road already stiff. He thinks of all the intruders he killed in the dungeon and how their deaths meant nothing because his was always erased. Out here, death means something. Out here, killing is not just function. It is a mark on time that cannot be rewound. He sits there through the night, not sleeping, thinking in slow, heavy shapes. I am free. I can choose. If I choose wrong, there is no chime. The chorus inside him whispers again, faint and insistent. Purpose is given. Weapons do not hesitate. He presses the whispers down, not with rage, with a steadier thing, with the beginning of identity. I decide, he tries to say, not aloud but inward, shaping the thought like a word. His armor does not echo it, but the forge heart turns, as if acknowledging. On the 5th day, he learns what hunger looks like in humans. He hears it before he sees it, a small sound of struggling breath, thin and wet. He follows it into the trees and finds a boy, maybe 12, collapsed against a log, skin pale, lips cracked, eyes half open. The boy's clothes are torn. A cut on his forehead has crusted with blood. There are bruises along his arms like someone grabbed him hard. The boy sees the guardian and tries to scramble away, but his body fails. He whispers a word, voice trembling. "Please." The guardian freezes. "Please." He knows the shape of that sound. He heard it in the dungeon, in voices begging before he broke them. He never responded. He did not have the ability to respond. He stands over the boy and feels something new, sharp as a blade but not pain, responsibility without command. The boy's eyes roll. He coughs. "Water," he whispers. "Water." That word is familiar now, tied to cold stream and reflection. The guardian looks around. He hears the creek somewhere nearby. He could carry the boy to it, but he is metal and heavy. He does not know his own strength well in gentler tasks. He could go fetch water, but he has nothing to hold it. Then he remembers the small chest from the bandits, left behind. The bundles, the cloth. He cannot conjure a vessel, but he can improvise. He pulls his cloak off his shoulders and folds it, creating a crude basin. He moves to the creek, fills the cloak fold with water, then returns quickly, careful not to spill too much. He kneels beside the boy and tips the cloak edge so water trickles. The boy drinks greedily at first, then coughs, then drinks slower. The guardian holds the cloak steady, metal fingers careful. The boy's eyes never leave the visor slit. Fear stays there, but it shifts around something else. Confusion. The boy whispers again. You're the Black Knight. Black Knight. 2 words. He stores them. Black is easy. He knows the black flame. Night. He does not fully know, but he has heard it in village talk, in songs drifting through open windows. It means armored warrior. It means human role. It means something with a name and place. He is not human, but he is armored. The boy swallows and says, "They said you'd kill me." They. A plural, a village, a world that talks. The guardian remembers the traveller running, the village barking. He places the cloak aside and looks at the boy. He cannot reassure. He cannot smile. He can only act. He reaches into the pouch he has begun carrying, an old bandit satchel slung awkwardly across his armor, and pulls out a strip of dried herbs. He doesn't know if they help, but he remembers seeing people chew them in the village. He offers it. The boy stares, then takes it with shaking fingers and puts it in his mouth, grimacing. "Bitter," he mutters. The guardian tilts his head slightly. The boy laughs once, a small wheeze of surprise, as if the gesture looked almost human. Where do you come from?" the boy asks. "Are you from the old hole?" The old hole. The dungeon. He feels the phrase hit the forge heart like a soft knock. The boy keeps talking, because children talk when afraid. "My pa said that place eats people," the boy whispers. "Said it makes monsters. Said the ground there is cursed. But I ran. I ran because..." He stops, swallowing hard. "Because they wanted to give me to the priest." The guardian holds still. Give. To priest. He doesn't understand, but he understands fear. The boy's eyes fill. "They said I'm touched," the boy says, voice breaking. "Because I hear things at night. Because I dream of bells. Bells. The guardian's black flame flares. The boy flinches, then stares at the flame wide-eyed. You do too, he whispers. Don't you? The guardian does not answer, but he doesn't need to. The boy can see the black fire. The boy can feel the presence. They sit in silence for a moment, the creek whispering nearby. Then the boy says softly, "What's your name?" Name. The guardian's chest tightens in a way that has nothing to do with pain. He has been called Hollow, Guardian, Monster, Undead, Black Knight, but none were chosen. He looks down at his gauntlet where the iron ring sits. He flexes his fingers. He thinks of the mark he carved into the dungeon's circle, the scar that made him. He thinks of the thought he formed when he stopped the door from opening without him. Not without me. He looks at a patch of bare earth beside the log and drags one gauntlet finger through it, carving a simple symbol. A line that splits, then rejoins. A crude version of the mark he carved in the Hall of Masks. 2 tethers. 1 self. He points to it. The boy squints. That's not a name, the boy says faintly. The guardian tilts his helm again. Then he points to himself, taps his breastplate once, clang, and points to the symbol again. The boy stares. You want that to be your name? He asks. The guardian holds still. The boy swallows and nods slowly, as if deciding to accept this bizarre thing on its own terms. Okay, the boy whispers. Okay, I'll call you. Split. Split. A word made into a name. The guardian lets it settle. It is imperfect. It is crude. It is his, because someone offered it, and he did not reject it. The boy's eyelids flutter. He is exhausted. He slumps against the log again, breathing shallowly. The guardian pulls his cloak back over his shoulders and stands. He cannot keep the boy here. Night will freeze him. He cannot take him to the village without being attacked, but he cannot leave him either. He looks at the boy's thin body and makes a decision. He lifts the boy carefully, sliding one gauntlet under the back, one under the legs. The boy whimpers at first, then goes limp, too tired to resist. The guardian carries him into the forest, moving quietly, following the creek upstream toward a place where smoke is faint and human presence is thinner, an outlying farm perhaps, a lone hut. He finds one before midnight, a small cabin with a low fence and a lantern burning by the door. A dog begins barking inside immediately. A woman's voice calls out, sharp, "Who's there?" The guardian stops at the edge of the lantern's light. If he steps forward, he will be seen. Fear will become violence. He looks down at the boy in his arms. The boy stirs and whispers weakly, "Ma." So this is his home. The guardian approaches the fence slowly and sets the boy down just inside the gate, leaning him against a post. He pulls the cloak off his shoulders and drapes it over the boy like a blanket. Then he steps back into the trees. The door bursts open. A woman with a kitchen knife rushes out, hair wild, eyes wide. She sees the boy. She drops to her knees beside him, knife forgotten. "Oh gods," she sobs, gathering him up. The boy's eyes open. "Ma," he whispers. "It was split." The woman looks up sharply, scanning the darkness. The guardian stands just beyond the lantern light, still as a grave marker. The woman's eyes widen as she catches a glimpse of metal. She pulls the boy closer, knife rising again, shaking in her hand. "Show yourself," she calls, voice breaking. The guardian does not. He steps farther back into the trees, until the lantern light no longer catches his plates. He leaves them with the boy alive and his cloak gone, a sacrifice of warmth for a life. He walks away feeling lighter and heavier at once. Lighter because he made a choice that was not killing. Heavier because he gave away the one thing that made him less monstrous in silhouette. He touches the iron ring on his finger. It remains. Proof that giving something away does not mean losing everything. By morning, the village knows. He hears it from a distance, carried by wind and voices and barking dogs. He circles the outskirts again and sees men gathering with spears and torches. A priest in pale robes stands at their center, hands lifted, speaking with fierce certainty. The word undead carries. The phrase black night carries. He hears curse, dungeon, demon. He hears boy. He hears split. His new name, spoken like a warning. The boy's mother stands near the edge of the group, face drawn, holding her son's hand. The boy points toward the forest. The men turn. The guardian has already retreated deeper. He watches them enter the trees in a cautious line, torches bobbing. They are hunting him. He feels no anger, only the cold awareness of consequence. Saving one boy has painted a target on his helm. He moves away, staying ahead of them, leaving misleading tracks where he can, stepping through rocky patches, wading through stream beds to break scent, climbing ridges where torchlight struggles. He is learning, not dungeon learning, map and trap, world learning, pursuit, fear, rumor. By dusk, the hunters lose him. He knows because the sounds of their search become scattered, then fade. He stops on a hill overlooking the village from far away and watches torchlights move like fireflies. He feels something twist in him, a pull to return, to show them he is not their enemy, to force understanding. He cannot, not yet. He has no language. He has no trust built. He has only the shape of a monster with black fire for eyes. He turns away. This time, the decision hurts. Not because he wants to be accepted, because he recognizes what acceptance would require. Time, patience, repeated proof. And he is not sure he can afford to be near humans long enough to build that without being destroyed. One life, one mistake. He walks into the hills. Rain finds him on the 7th day. It begins as a fine mist, then becomes a steady fall that turns the world glossy. Water runs down his plates in rivulets, pooling in seams, dripping from his gauntlet fingertips. It feels clean. It also feels dangerous, because wet ground can slip, and slipping can mean falling, and falling can mean breaking, and breaking can mean end. He moves carefully. Thunder rolls overhead, not like the bell's hum, but like skystone cracking. Lightning flashes. For an instant, the world is white, sharp, every tree outlined. His black flame flares in response, instinctively defensive, then settles. He finds a rock overhang and stands under it, rain hissing off stone edges. As the storm passes, he watches the world drink. He thinks of the dungeon collapsing, sealed under rubble, its corridors filling with water now perhaps. He imagines the circles drowned, the runes washed clean. He feels no grief, only an odd emptiness where his hatred used to live. The dungeon was his enemy and his maker. Now it is gone, and without it, he is forced to face a truth he never had to face in the loop. There is no one to blame for what he becomes next but himself. The thought is terrifying. It is also power. He stands as rain fades into drizzle, thinking of the words he has collected: hollow, undead, night, split, purpose, choice, release. He cannot speak them, but perhaps he can learn. He remembers the chalkboard slate the intruder once brought in the dungeon. Letters, symbols, words made into shapes. He looks down at the mud near the overhang and drags his finger through it, practicing. Not a rune, not a magic glyph. A simple line, a curve, a crude imitation of the marks he saw on village signs. He does not know if he is doing it right, but he can make marks that stay. He can learn. He can build something. That realization sits in him like the first stone of a foundation. He meets the priest on the 10th day. Not the village priest. The world is larger than one village. This priest is older, traveling alone along a road with a mule and a lantern. He wears a worn symbol at his neck, not shining, more like iron than gold. He looks tired. The guardian sees him first and steps off the road into brush, intending to avoid. The priest stops anyway. He turns toward the brush and speaks calmly. "I know you're there," he says. The guardian freezes. The priest lifts his lantern slightly, not aiming it like a weapon, but using it to see. His eyes are sharp, not fearful, alert. "I can feel the cold," the priest says, "and the fire that isn't fire." The guardian does not move. The priest takes one slow step toward the brush, hands visible. "I won't draw on you," he says. "If you don't draw on me." Draw. Weapon. The guardian has none, but his gauntlets are enough. He steps out of the brush slowly. The priest inhales, one sharp intake that betrays the instinctive fear. But he does not run. He holds his ground. The lantern light catches the guardian's plates, dull and scratched, ring on his finger, glinting faintly. The black flame in his visor burns steady. "By the mercy," the priest murmurs. "You're not a walking corpse. You're bound armor." Bound. The word hits deep, close to the forge heart. The priest's gaze flicks to the guardian's chest plate. "You have runes," he says softly. "Old ones. That's not common necromancy." Necromancy, another word. The guardian stores it. It tastes like accusation in the priest's mouth, but also like curiosity. The priest swallows and speaks again, more carefully. "Can you understand me?" he asks. The guardian tilts his helm slightly. Yes? No? He does not know how to answer. The priest tries different language, slow and clear. "If you are a mind," the priest says, tapping his own temple, "then blink." Blink. The guardian cannot blink. He pauses, then does the only thing he can. He opens and closes his gauntlet once, slow. The priest's eyebrows lift. "That will do," he says quietly. The priest reaches into his satchel and pulls out a small piece of charcoal and a scrap of parchment. He holds them out carefully, like offering food to a nervous dog. "Can you write?" he asks. "Write." The guardian looks at the charcoal, then at the parchment. He remembers mud marks under a rock overhang. He extends one gauntlet and takes them. The charcoal is brittle. He tries to hold it delicately, but his fingers are metal. It crumbles slightly. The priest winces, then smiles faintly. "Try," he encourages. The guardian presses the charcoal to the parchment. A black line appears, a mark. It stays. He draws his split line symbol. Line splitting, rejoining. The priest watches, face intent. "That's your sign," the priest says softly. "Your name." Name. The guardian pauses. Then, with effort, he scratches a crude version of the word the boy used. Split. He does not know letters, but the priest watches the shapes and speaks them aloud as if translating. "S, p." The priest murmurs, following the strokes. He looks up. "Split," he says. The Guardian's black flame flickers, almost like acknowledgement. The priest exhales. "All right, Split," he says. "What do you want?" Want. The Guardian's gauntlet tightens around charcoal. He does not know how to answer that in words. He only knows the shapes of his wants. Not to be hunted, not to be forced, not to be used, to choose, to understand, to prepare for the returning evil he saw in Forge memory. He draws a simple circle on the parchment, then a line, then another circle, broken, like rubble. He points back behind him vaguely, toward where the dungeon was. The priest's eyes narrow. "A dungeon," he says slowly. The Guardian draws a door shape. Then he draws himself, a crude armored figure. Then he draws an arrow away from the door. "Leave." The priest nods slowly. "You got out," he says. The Guardian draws a jagged shape above, a tear in sky, like the memory showed. The priest's face goes still. "What is that?" he asks quietly. The Guardian draws a large black blot beneath it. The returning evil's shape, which is not a shape. The priest swallows. "You saw something," he says. "Something coming." The Guardian holds still. The priest looks at him for a long moment, then lowers his lantern slightly. "Split," he says, voice gentler now. "If you walk into towns, they will burn you. If you stay near roads, they will hunt you. If you show your face, if I can call it that, some will call you demon before they call you person." Person. The word lands like a small miracle. The priest continues, "But if you are truly a mind, then you can learn. You can choose where you stand. You can choose what you protect." Protect. A word close to guard, but without leash. The Guardian's black flame steadies. The priest points at the iron ring on the Guardian's finger. "You kept something," he notes. "That means you aren't in a loop anymore." The Guardian stills. "Yes." The priest nods, then reaches into his satchel again and pulls out a strip of cloth, white, clean. He holds it out. "I won't offer bread," he says, eyes flicking to the Guardian's empty visor. "But I can offer a sign, a token, something folk understand." The Guardian looks at the cloth. He remembers the bloodied cloth that vanished in the dungeon. He remembers giving his cloak to the boy. He takes the cloth. The priest ties it around the Guardian's upper arm, knotting it carefully around metal. A simple band, a visible marker. "A pilgrim's band," the priest says. "Some will still fear you, but fewer will shoot first." The Guardian stands, feeling the cloth tight around metal. It is absurd. It is also help. The priest steps back and gives a small bow. Not deep, not reverent, but respectful enough to mean something. "I won't ask you to come with me," he says. "That would get us both killed. But listen, Split. There are old places in this world, other holes, other stones that hum. If you came from one, you are not the only one. Not the only one." The words echo through the Guardian like a struck bell. Act 7's shadow long before it arrives. The priest continues, voice lower. "And there are people who study such things," he says. "Runesmiths, scholars, some good, some hungry. If you seek answers, choose carefully who you let close to your runes." The Guardian's flame tightens, remembering hook light, nets, unthreading. The priest nods, as if seeing the reaction. "One more thing," he says. "If you ever find yourself wanting oblivion." The Guardian stiffens. Oblivion. Release. The priest's eyes soften. Don't mistake it for peace, the priest finishes. Peace is something you build, not something you fall into. The guardian does not understand all of it, but he understands enough. Build. He looks down at his gauntlets, at the iron ring, at the white band, at the charcoal still crushed in his grip. Build. He turns the charcoal in his fingers and realizes he can make marks. He can learn words. He can build a life the way he once carved scars, one deliberate cut at a time. He returns the charcoal and parchment to the priest. The priest takes them back, then hesitates and offers something else. A small hammer, worn, the handle smooth from use. A smith's hand tool, the priest says. If you can find a forge that won't chase you off, you can mend your plates without feeding on worse things. Worse things. The guardian takes the hammer. It is small in his gauntlet, but real. A tool, but one chosen, not imposed. The priest steps back. Go east, he says, away from that village. There's a market town 2 days' walk where traders come and go. You'll be seen, but you'll also hear things. Rumors, stories, names of old ruins. Names. The guardian nods, tilts helm, then turns away. The priest calls after him once, soft. Split, he says. If you ever decide what you are, decide it for yourself, not for the sorcerers who made you, not for the fear that will chase you. The guardian walks on. The priest's lantern light fades behind him, but the hammer remains in his hand. He does not go to the market town, not yet. He follows the priest's direction, but keeps to the hills, moving parallel to roads rather than on them. He watches from ridges as wagons pass. He listens to snatches of conversation carried by wind. He hears words repeating. Dungeon, bandits, winter, war, war. He does not understand fully, but he senses its weight. Many dead, many wounds, many reasons for fear. He sees a patrol once, soldiers in mismatched armor, faces hard, carrying pikes. They stop on a road and talk to a farmer, then move on. He stays hidden, not because he is afraid of soldiers, because he is afraid of what he would do if attacked, because he is afraid of what they would do if he hesitated. One life means he must pick his fights, not simply win them. In the dungeon, every fight was inevitable. Out here, every fight is a choice. He learns to avoid. He learns to be patient. He learns that patience is not the same as obedience. Patience is strategy. On the 12th night, he finds a forge. Not a grand smithy, just a small outbuilding behind a farmhouse with a simple anvil and a cold hearth. The place smells of iron, soot, old sweat. He stands outside it, listening. No one inside. Only tools hanging in rows. His black flame flickers with memory. The dungeon's forge pool, the way it tried to smooth his scars. This forge is mundane. It cannot unmake him. It can only shape metal. He steps inside. He sets the priest's hammer on the anvil and lifts his own forearm, turning it in moonlight to study dents and scratches. He strikes once. The sound is sharp, clean. Not a bell. A hammer on metal. The sound rings through his plates and into his forge heart, and for a moment, something inside him relaxes. Not because he is being corrected, but because the act is familiar in a new way, shaping without leash. He hammers carefully, tapping dents back into place. He works slowly. He does not know craft, but he knows metal's language from endless impacts. He feels the plate flex. He hears the tone change. He learns. As he works, the whispers inside him stir again, faint, almost wistful. Forge, temperature, weapon. He does not silence them this time. He lets them exist as echoes, not masters, because forging can be his now, if he chooses it. He finishes before dawn. His forearm plate is smoother, not perfect, but improved. He hangs the hammer back where it was. He does not steal tools. He does not know why that matters, but it does. He leaves the forge as quietly as he entered. Outside, the first light of dawn touches the hills. He walks on. As days pass, his wandering becomes less random. He begins to track the faint resonances he sometimes feels, a low hum in his forge heart when he passes certain patches of ground, certain stones that seem too smooth, too intentionally placed. Old magic, old work, not the dungeon, but related. The priest was right. This world has other scars. Sometimes, in the far distance, he feels a pressure like a memory of the bell's hum, and the chorus inside him stirs restlessly. Other forges, other weapons. He does not know if those places make guardians like him. He does not know if those guardians have escaped. He does not know if they are still trapped, dying and returning endlessly. The thought burns, because if they are trapped, he could choose to free them. Not because he is commanded, because he understands what it is to be made into a function. He remembers the hanging suits in the dungeon's alcoves, dim presences that never got to crack their loops. Release. He touches the iron ring on his finger again, grounding himself. He cannot save everyone. He can barely keep himself alive, but he can choose where to go. And the act of choosing is its own victory. On the 15th day, he reaches a crossroads. Two roads meet under a weathered wooden sign. The sign is carved with symbols he cannot read, arrows pointing in different directions. One road leads toward thicker smoke on the horizon, town, market, people. The other leads toward hills and darker land, old ruins, fewer eyes. He stands at the crossroads as the sun sets, sky turning the color of old bruises. He thinks of the boy calling him Split. He thinks of the priest tying a white band around his arm and calling him Person. He thinks of the bandit leader's skull cracking. He thinks of the travelers' bodies and the crows. He thinks of the sky tear memory and the black shape beneath it. The returning evil, purpose, choice. He feels the pull of both roads not as tethers, but as futures. One future is hiding, surviving, wandering alone until the world forgets him, or until something finds him. The other future is walking toward people who will fear him, learning their words, learning their world, becoming something that can stand between them and what's coming. He does not want to be used, but he also does not want to be irrelevant. He has tasted the difference between guarding because he must and protecting because he chooses. He lifts his gauntlet and presses it to the wooden signpost. The wood creaks. He carves his split-line symbol into it. One deliberate gouge, deep enough to last a season or more. A mark that says, "I was here. I chose." He steps back. The symbol looks crude on weathered wood, but it is real. He turns toward the road that leads toward smoke and voices. Not because he trusts them, because he needs to understand them. Because if the evil returns, it will return to a world of people who cannot fight it alone. And because, if he is to decide what kind of life he builds, he cannot build it in isolation forever. He begins walking. His cloak is gone, but his white band remains. His iron ring remains. His black flame burns steady behind his visor. And in the quiet space where commands used to live, a new sentence forms, not imposed, not whispered by sorcerers, not carved by the dungeon. His, I will learn, I will choose, I will build. He walks into the widening world, carrying the weight of one life like a crown and a threat. And for the first time, the road ahead feels like something other than another corridor. It feels like possibility. Thanks for watching Echo Forge. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe so the next tale finds you. Share this with someone who loves dark fantasy or twisted sci-fi, and I'll see you in the next world.